Welcome to Nerd Hurdles.
Welcome to Nerd Hurdles.
The podcast that helps you overcome your prejudices.
With snark. Your geek prejudices? All your prejudices.
All of them.
All of them.
We are no longer limiting ourselves to geek prejudices.
Damn.
Just because we've talked about them all over the last 7 years or whatever, however long we've been doing this.
So we could be the podcast that helps you overcome your prejudices. Geek with snark.
You nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah. Go out there and play some pickup football games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey. Get into hockey.
Hey, speaking of geeks.
Yeah.
Oh, we got fan mail.
We did get fan mail.
And we aren't allowed to read it out on the show.
No, we're not. Are we allowed to say who it was from?
I think so.
I also do not know how to pronounce either of her names.
Rivka Micklethwaite?
Well, that's what
Rivka?
I'll go Rivka.
Rivka.
Just because when you said
Rivka doesn't sound like how it might be. Rivka?
That's not a legitimate name.
What? You don't say that.
In case it is her name. It was a very lovely letter.
Oh my God, I cried 3 times while I was reading it.
Yeah. Too bad we're not allowed to talk about what's in it.
We're allowed to talk about what's in it. We're just not allowed to read it out.
I'm going with Micklethwaite.
Micklethwaite. Rivka Micklethwaite.
Well, now that we say
that sounds fun to say.
It also sounds like we're saying it with a lisp.
Rivka. Oh, like it's...
Say it in a Phlox voice.
Rivka Micklethwaite. And by Phlox voice, you mean Galaxy Quest alien voice.
Yeah, I can't remember if Galaxy Quest came out before or after Enterprise. Like if Enterprise had happened and then... Because Phlox kind of doesn't do that voice anymore in Season 2. So I'm wondering if Galaxy Quest came out after Season 1 and then they're like, okay,
they were making
pull it
fun
back.
of Phlox.
Yeah, but I feel like Galaxy Quest is way older than Enterprise.
Oh my God, I need to know. We need to look that up.
Yeah.
You look it up. I looked up Rivka Micklethwaite's letter. So while you're looking it up, I'll talk about the letter. I think the thing that I think is the nicest about it, and this is sort of something that kind of happened back in the day, of the forums on Simply Syndicated. But so she's been listening to the podcast while she kind of grew up, like through her like teen years. And I don't know, I think that's so cool. It's so cool to be like, to get a chance to be a part of that time in someone's life. Cause it's such a, I don't know, like such a crazy time. Like you're getting your ideas sorted out and you're becoming who you are as a person. And anyway, so I'm super honored that we got to be there for that. And so nice that she like reached out and told us, that some of the stuff we said mattered. Yeah.
We're in one of those phases where we're like, why are we shouting out into the void? We used to be on a weekly basis. Now it's a bi-monthly at best.
It makes it seem less like futile.
To do it so infrequently.
Because we were really grinding them out there for a while.
Yeah.
And it did sort of feel like, why?
But we're also getting more feedback when we're grinding them out.
Well, yeah.
Because we were doing it more professionally in our amateurish hobbyist way. You have that consistent output and then people actually stick around.
Yeah.
And they keep listening. And with the drop off of productivity came the drop off of followers and the drop off of feedback. So it was just sort of now it's sort of like, well, we got these stats on the SoundCloud account and stuff, but I just assume those are all bots because nobody's giving us feedback. So it's sort of like shouting into the void for nothing. But then it's really nice to hear that we had some effect on somebody. The thing in her letter that sticks out the most for me is when she said, I don't always agree with your politics. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Our politics are infallible. Well, if you don't agree with all our politics, why would you listen to this podcast? Do you like being mad? She must not disagree too much. Well, because she seems to be online with...
I think, though, too, what you might be thinking of as politics, like probably a lot of the stuff that we talk about, people wouldn't consider politics. Like, I don't consider social justice issues politics.
Well, that's what I consider politics.
I consider it human rights. Like, I wouldn't ever think of that as politics.
In some countries it is. They put stuff to referendums that should not be put to referendums.
In our country it is too.
Yeah.
But it's more subtle. It's more, like politics will have social justice implications that people try to not they don't want anyone to know that,
Yeah.
like the social justice implications of affordable childcare, right? Like that's only a big deal for certain people in society.
That's
I mean, it's a
right,
big deal for everybody, but it's like a huge deal for people in certain socioeconomic brackets.
Yeah. Something we would consider a human right, but isn't technically a human right.
Yeah. But like we would talk about the social justice implications of like class, where, you know, affordable childcare might, like that's a political issue with social justice implications. So I like they overlap, but
yeah.
So I cried a lot of times when I read that letter, which I think may have been in part to the postpartum pregnancy hormones coursing through my body.
By the way, we had a baby.
We had a baby.
That's our excuse for this episode for why there's been a delay of like a month or over a month between episodes.
Well, I was just thinking this might be like one of the few pursuits that we have left available to us now. So maybe we'll be more regular.
When you're pregnant and when we, you know, made the agreement for you to get pregnant.
Wow, that sounds super hot.
And contractual almost. You were like, oh, it's not going to change our life at all. And I was like, it's going to change everything about our lives. And you were like, nah, we're not going to have to stop gigging with the band. We're not going to have to stop doing the podcast.
Well, yeah, we're not going to have to stop doing the podcast. No. And we won't have to stop. Like, we'll be able to do band things.
I just feel a lot less motivated to do band things at the moment.
Well, at the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment, you can't base the rest of our lives on this horrible, horrible new baby time. And in a lot of ways, it hasn't changed our life. We just don't feel like when we sit around on the couch and watch shows, it doesn't feel like, haha, look at us just wasting our time because we want to. It's more like, oh, good God, let us grasp at this one shred of normalcy, and we're trapped here, and we have to watch these shows.
Well, yeah, because we're in between feeding cycles or feeding, so you're a captive audience for Netflix shows in a way where we'd be like, well, we're eating dinner, so let's watch a Netflix show, and oh yeah, it was tough day at work for both of us, so let's just
watch another one.
Now it's sort of like, well, the baby's not done eating, so I guess we're watching an episode of Enterprise, or now we're watching an episode of Luke Cage that we wouldn't necessarily want to watch at the moment.
And you said feeding cycle.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not so much a feeding cycle anymore.
No.
It's better than it was.
Yeah, there was a 2 hour, at one point where we were like instructed to wake the baby up every 2 hours to get the birth weight back up to birth weight. So it was like, even if there's this nice sleepy time where we're like, oh, life's back to normal.
The baby's asleep and we're having a nice time.
And it was like, 2 hours. Gotta get the milk in there.
And the thing that's the fucking worst about that 2 hour thing is it's not 2 hours from when you finish to when you start. It's 2 hours from when you start to when you start.
Yeah.
So if it takes you an hour to feed your baby, you got an hour off in between.
Which it was like an hour was, and for reasons we're going to talk about, sort of the topic of this episode. Mm-hmm. I was like an hour would be, that'd be on a good day.
Yeah.
Because it was taking you more than an hour.
Mm-hmm. And so this is the thing, listeners, that you might not know.
Because nobody really talks about it.
Nobody really talks about this. It's like a behind closed doors sort of conversation.
And you might feel like people talk about it. It's like it's in the public sphere, you know, they talk about breastfeeding in public a lot and stuff like that, but it's only on a very superficial level.
The topic is breastfeeding. And yeah, the way I feel like people talk about it is there's a picture of a breastfeeding lady on the internet and everyone's like, how dare you shame the breastfeeding lady?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I want to be the breastfeeding lady that people daren't shame. But they don't talk about how it's a fucking nightmare to get to be that breastfeeding lady. And god damn it, they also don't talk about the fact that it's not like I always sort of thought, oh man, those breastfeeding ladies sure must like to get their tits out, because I'm shy and wouldn't want people to see my boobs. Well, fuck, in the last month, my boobs are just out all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's here, and it doesn't matter who sees my boobs, and they see my boobs in very ridiculous ways.
Because, so-called modesty, or whatever you want to call it, definitely it's taking a back burner is like least of your worries. Yeah, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So in the grand scheme of breastfeeding, there's all kinds of things that can make it challenging. And I think breastfeeding is a nerd hurdles topic because people are nerdy about it. Like, people are breastfeeding obsessed.
There's like practical cults
There are
out there.
cults.
Yeah.
Full on breastfeeding. The cult of the breastfeeding.
Yeah, the Jack Newman cult.
The Jack Newman cult. Man, a lot of things can go wrong. And what I've sort of learned since having some struggles of my own is that a lot of people experience a lot of struggles. Like, the minority of people have it go well.
Yeah, everybody who's asked me, like people from work or whatever, ask me how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And being the person I am, I just tell them the truth and tell them the horror show of what's been going on with your breasts and the breastfeeding and the ups and downs and everything. And all the women are like, yeah, I had a really, really hard time too. And they're like, yeah, it's weird.
No one said that to me. No one said anything to me while I was pregnant about that.
And I can kind of understand that because at the staff meeting, when they were pressing me to tell baby stories,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, they're like, any funny baby stories? And I'm like, no, there's no funny baby stories. I can see why they thought I was joking because, well, it's a lie. I'm sure there have been funny baby stories to tell, even though in this first month, they're just a meat lump that doesn't do anything. Yeah, so they were like, well, tell us some not so funny stories. And I was reticent to tell the story that we're going to tell a little bit later because one of my coworkers is pregnant and she's going on mat leave in November. Like, she's getting ready to do it. I was just like, I kind of don't want to bum her out. I don't want to freak her out.
At the same time, like, forewarned is forearmed.
Exactly, and which is why I just charged ahead with my
and
story.
You can get, I think if you do some learning ahead of time, you can be in a really good place to sort of prevent some of the challenges from happening.
Exactly. I think this is one of those weird taboos that nobody talks about for weird totally social pressure reasons.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be... Well, first of all, there's the propaganda machine of the breastfeeding cult. Like, breast is best, and people are made to feel real shitty if they're not
breastfeeding.
And that if it isn't this magical, Earth Mother natural thing. So I guess we've really sort of like laid it on thick. Like, the doom is coming, people. Listen to the doom. The first thing I would like to talk about is latch. I saw a comic that said something like, things a new parent that you wouldn't think of before. You say latch 100 times a day and you never did before.
Yeah. Certainly a term I don't think I'd ever heard, which is also indicative of how little this is talked about in general public. Like, it's just a common word in our lives now. And with any healthcare providers or other mothers, everybody says latch. Mm-hmm. Any of our friends or mothers that we had talked to before, latch had never come up. Nobody talked about the latch being good or bad or having troubles with the latch until you had troubles. And they're like, oh, yeah, I had troubles, blah, blah, blah. And this is what I did. And here's my crazy solutions. And like, it's weird. It's like, why was it such a behind closed doors taboo thing? This is literally the most natural aspect of being a human being, pretty much.
And people seem really like they really want to talk about it. Like, once
because they're finally able to talk about it.
Once I realized that like this was a thing, and I started sort of like opening up some dialogues about it, like, oh my god, people are like hungry to talk about this.
Yeah.
So latch, for you uninitiated listeners, and you're all teenagers pretty much, I think. So some of you may have babies, some of you may not. It's like when the baby's mouth, like, sucks onto the boob.
Yeah.
It's the latch.
Yeah, a mouth latching onto a boob.
Yeah.
Not a nipple.
Not a nipple, because it's not nipple feeding, people.
It's breastfeeding.
It's breastfeeding.
Yeah, it's like the whole areola.
Well, and it needs to be asymmetrical.
Yeah. See, it's complex.
It's fucking complex, and no one tells you this. And I actually think if my latch issues had been resolved earlier, some of the other things down the road it probably wouldn't have gotten so bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And the problem is that no one really told me that, like, it shouldn't hurt. Because I was putting up with a lot of pain, and I was like, I guess this is just what it is. Man, I wish I had it to do over. Like, I think there still would have been challenges, but
yeah,
I think it would have been better overall. So what ended up happening is I got a blocked duct, which is a milk duct that's blocked, obviously, which turned into mastitis, which is like an infection, and then an abscess formed.
Yeah.
Now, abscesses, my friends, are very, very rare. in this scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess the other thing that was going on in there is I had really low milk supply.
Yeah, which is probably the block duct was, or potentially one theory floated around is that because you were pumping a lot to
increase milk supply.
Yeah, to stimulate milk supply, hopefully. The cone of the breast pump might have caused the block duct.
Well, that was something that we talked about, but
I thought you read there was one thing you read on the internet that was one possible cause.
It was improper pumping, but
okay.
But I don't think that was what it would have been. Because I brought it up at the midwives, and they were like, "Oh no."
Yeah, but they didn't think it was an abscess.
Yeah.
I mean, the midwives were super great for the birth.
Yeah, best ever.
And they're super great people. But I kind of felt like, and I wished I had spoken up more, because at the time I felt like they weren't taking it seriously enough. I don't really want to be like they were like malpractice or something like this, but it was sort of like I felt like it wasn't really taken seriously, the block duct and stuff, because it wasn't going away. It was supposed to be massaged.
Yeah, it was supposed to have gone away.
And they did. And when you're like, it's not going down, they're like, oh no, it probably will. You know, and it was sort of like, well, that's kind of lackadaisical, but they're the professionals.
Too, because even
the
student said, she, like, retrospectively, she was like, yeah, I kind of figured something was up, because a block duct, what I'm used to is, like, you know, it being small, like a marble.
Right, which makes the bag of marbles massaging technique make more sense. When we read that, we're like, but these things are more like kiwis, or like a walnut, or
a walnut. Yeah, that's what we called it.
Or marbles, but just those big shooting ones.
Golf ball.
Yeah, golf. Yeah.
So it's rare that abscesses happen. I mean, the midwife student had never seen an abscess. Not surprising, but I don't actually think the experienced midwife had ever seen an abscess either.
Yeah. So I mean, fair enough, but it's kind of it was the one time in the whole midwife process which has been really wonderful and lovely, I think. Whereas her, like, I don't know, maybe like a family doctor might have been more of that intrusive medical, we're going to get to the bottom of this because that's what doctors do kind of thing. Whereas the midwives are a bit more, it's going to work out.
Well, and that's sort of the way the care is structured.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was the one time in the whole process where I was like, yeah, that the shittiness of the doctor actually might have been prevented, or maybe there's nothing they could have done.
But I don't know if it would have really prevented it, because I don't know what they would have done. Well, there's nothing I could have done other than what I was doing,
and what eventually happened.
Yeah, which was So if you have an abscess in your boob, friends, you have to get it drained, and so we weren't sure it was an abscess, but I had the one last hot bath where I tried to massage that fucking thing out of my boob, thinking it was still a block duct. And I was like, okay, I talked to the midwife. They were like, okay, maybe you should go to the ER if it's not gone down or getting worse. It was getting worse was the issue. So I cried in the bathtub and was like, okay, I guess it's time to go. And I'd done some reading online where people had talked about being like put under general anesthetic and had their boob cut open and all this business done. And I was like pretty freaked out that was going to happen to me. But then I was like, Mandy, you can't just go on the internet and read what the internet says and think that that's what's going to happen to you. So then I got to the hospital and the doctor was like, okay, so we're going to put you under and we're going to cut you open and drain this abscess. And I was like, what? How the fuck was the fucking internet fucking right? What? This is not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But at least I was sort of prepared for that. And it wasn't really fully general anesthetic. I mean, I guess it was and it wasn't.
No, wasn't it? It was a sedation, like when you're when you get if you've ever gotten wisdom teeth out, it's the same thing.
I think it was more intense than the wisdom teeth one.
Well, I was out in before they were counting down from 10. I was out by 8.
They didn't do any counting down.
Yeah, I was out. I mean, I came to sort of at one point, but other than that, I was gonzo.
I think it's similar, but there was an anesthesiologist that came and did that.
There was at the
an anesthesiologist?
Well, it was. I don't know if they were employable by a hospital level anesthesia, but it was a dental surgeon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I also I wasn't quite David at the dentist though, unfortunately.
No, I wasn't David at the dentist either.
Yeah.
But Shane at the dentist, a couple curtain areas down, he was Shane at the
in the ER. What was the thing you said at dinner the other night? He's one of the things he was saying.
That he was calling himself Johnny Fever?
Yeah. I want to be called Johnny Fever.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch exactly how that all went. But then the people were like, oh, WKRB in Cincinnati. But then it sort of seemed like he didn't quite know what that was. So I don't know why he was Johnny Fever.
He thought he had made up the name.
Just sounded cool.
Yeah, I made up this cool name because he's probably a younger guy.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I never saw Shane.
I just
heard him.
You just saw Chad? Or was the other guy? The guy that was trying to scam pain meds?
Oh, I don't know what his name was.
Oh, you knew it. It was like Brody or Chad.
Oh my God. I probably just made some guesses. It was definitely one of those.
Some brony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started out being like, no one even gave me any Advil. And then someone brought him, I guess, Advil or Tylenol or something. And then he was like, that's not enough. I need more. This isn't working. I'm just going to go home. And I thought he'd like twisted his ankle or something. But it turns out he had like these weird cuts on his feet that had gotten like super infected. And they were like, come back tomorrow for more intravenous antibiotics. And he's like, oh, but I live in Milton. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah.
Anyway, he didn't want to, but they were like, you have a very bad infection and you need to come back for intravenous antibiotics. And he's like, I have mono? They're like, no. I have the kissing disease? No.
Wow.
Like, what's happening?
When they cut Chad's feet off, that's going to be a real loss to the world.
Totally. And then there was another guy who they did some blood tests and he was like, oh God, I'm really freaked out. What are those for? What if it says I have cancer? Like, what? It's not a cancer blood test. Like, they just take everyone's blood when they come in and test it.
Yeah. Because that's part of Justin Trudeau's building up his DNA database program.
Yeah, did we talk about that already?
Not on the podcast.
But we did talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like,
how did you know?
How did you know? Oh my God.
Yeah. Take blood from everybody so that they can develop.
I don't actually think they take blood from everybody, but I think they take blood from people who have infections, maybe.
Yeah.
Because they took blood from me, but I think I've been to the ER before where they didn't. Like, they're not going to take your blood if you have a broken arm.
Yeah, I cut my foot open once and they didn't take blood. They just gave me a tetanus shot. Yeah. I had to wait forever. I had to wait until it was like healing to the point, like, that's how long I had to wait. And then they're like, oh, we would have given you stitches except it started to heal. So now you're going to have this weird scar.
That's
like,
the thing
that's
about
fine.
the emergency room that I think is so terrible. This one in particular, I don't know if they're all like this, but you come in to the emergency and the like triage area, like the first waiting area is so nice. There's like a pretty fish tank and nice chairs and windows and everything. And I didn't actually have time to sit down in that waiting area. You take a number, and before I got a chance to sit down, I got called up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, go to this next waiting area. The next waiting area is okay. Like, there was lots of seats left and no windows, no fish tank, but clean, fine.
Yeah.
And I was there for not very long. And then they took us into this room, like, I guess an examination room. It looked like a fucking, like, where the people go in a movie to get the bullets taken out by not a doctor.
So it was like the basement of Kingdom Hospital?
Yeah, it was gross. There was like this tray that was all dirty and like it was super dirty and gross. And then I was like, what are those things? Oh, they're laceration kits. Oh God, they're going to slice open my boob in this dirty fucking filth room. Great.
Like in Deadpool. Not quite that bad?
Oh yeah, no, like that. Not as dark.
Not as dark.
Not as dark. So then after that, we had to go to another waiting area that was like, had fewer seats and was way more crowded. And then after that, we went to another waiting area that had like lots of people in like dodgy states.
Right.
Waiting and not as many spots to sit.
Because when you phoned me, there was like the screaming Polish lady, maybe? Or was she screaming English? It was the old lady who was having a really bad time in the bed beside you.
Oh, that was not a waiting area. That was
actually in the...
That was next to my bed where I got sedated.
Right.
Yeah, she was having a bad time.
Yeah.
She Oh, no, there was a lady yelling in French and then a lady yelling in English.
Oh, right. Okay.
But they were having bad times.
Right.
They were confused.
Yeah, it's hard to hear over an iPhone, like background yelling.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It sounded like absolute war zone chaos, though.
Well, and it was terrible too because, like, I'm a pretty empathetic person, so like the more crowded the waiting area with the more people that are having a bad time, that is hard for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably hard for everybody. I don't know, but I can't handle it.
No.
Bad times. So yeah, I was trying to talk to you on the phone and trying to like put on a brave face, but these ladies are tearing me down. Anyway, we had to go for the ultrasound. That waiting area was empty and beautiful. That was great. But we waited in like 6 different waiting areas, and they get progressively like darker and shadier and more crowded.
This is all like in the middle of the night as well.
Well, yeah, we got there at 6:30 and home by 1:30, which is actually pretty good. Like, it was not very busy. Yeah. Sunday night, I guess, is the time to go.
So anyways, then they knock you out. They cut your boob open.
Suck out all the goo.
They don't sew it back up. They just put this tie in. This
little plastic. It looks like a twist tie, but it doesn't have any metal in it. It's sort of rubbery.
Its actual purpose is to keep it open so it'll drain. So you had this like draining wound held open with blue twist tie.
Yeah.
And some gauze padding.
And by had, you mean still have.
Still have until Wednesday, I guess.
Yeah, till Wednesday. And that actually was a lot better than having the abscess.
Yeah, well, of course. It's like popping a pimple.
It's like popping a pimple.
A relief to have that pressure. And that I think we humans have the reason we like pimple popping videos and stuff is just that idea of squeezing the infection out is like some sort of instinctive
thing we know that we want to do.
Yeah, so it's satisfying to have like the infection out, even if it's a painful, horrible experience to have it done. It's just there's something like you feel it kind of in your heart. You know, it's like the metaphorical heart.
I feel it in my vagina when I see something like that. I feel it down there.
Yeah, it's definitely that core body sort of tingle relief feeling. It's really interesting.
I feel it in my mystic.
Yeah.
Heights. I also feel heights in my mystic.
Right. My mystic's a little higher up. It's more, not in my heart, but it's more solar plexus area. Yeah.
Mystic.
Yeah. And that is like one of the highlights of your breastfeeding experience because there was...
I think the hardest part was the milk supply thing.
Yeah. And like that was psychologically destroying you, I felt like.
It was. It's funny because I'm like looking back at it now, I'm like, why was I so upset about that?
Yeah, but you were
devastated.
Close to the part where I didn't know if I had to tell people based on the instructions I'd been given about keeping an eye on you for postpartum depression.
Who gave you instructions?
They're in the yellow binder.
Oh.
And you were starting to say some of the things that were like warning signs.
Oh God, like what?
I don't remember exactly now.
I was definitely on the edge, though.
You were like, yeah, this isn't one of the worrying things, but you would say things to me like, "It's gonna be okay, right? it's gonna be okay." But you do it with this like forced smile. It was.
Oh God!
It was rough. It was rough.
It was rough for sure.
Yeah.
God, it was rough. It's interesting too because, like, it isn't just like I remember. You think about, oh baby, what is it? Well, okay, there's gonna have to be a little intermission while I stick this baby on a boob. Okay, so this is what I was gonna say. So, like, I remember when I was pregnant, I was like, postpartum depression. I don't really feel like I'm the kind of person that would happen to. But
because
then,
it was kind of mysterious. It was like, this is this thing that happens for no reason. It's weird,
But then afterwards, it was just so... And now looking back on it, like, my reactions to things were not really...
reasonable.
How I would react. Like, it was, like...
intense.
Outside of...
Yeah, definitely.
My own psychological control.
Definitely, like, a heightened reaction to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance... and this is something I never expected to happen, was that you would fall in love with the theme song to Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh my God, it means so much to me.
Like, you might be the only person who has like some sort of emotional connection to that fucking horrible song.
It's been a long road
to get from there to here.
Getting from there to here. It's because it's about my breastfeeding journey.
I know, and you had faith of the heart that you would make it work, which it's
just
sort of
talking about this. I'm getting teared up. Like it's real. I care about the song.
Yeah.
And objectively terrible.
Yeah, it's like, and it wasn't cheap. It's a Diane Warren song. She's like one of the big song doctors in the music industry. So they shelled out probably tens of thousands of dollars for her to write that.
What's a song doctor?
Well, they're the people like, they go into the Britney Spears album and they're like, okay, we got well, not so much the way they write songs now, but back in the day, it would be like a more of a traditional band like Bon Jovi or something. Producer would bring them in and say, we got this pretty good song. You turn it into You Give Love a Bad Name or whatever. It's going to be the huge hit, and that's what a song doctor would do. And she was like one of these people that would write songs, the big hits for the stars, like the one big hit on their album was often a Diane Warren song.
What are some examples of Diane Warren songs? Because this is just talk without that. I'm breastfeeding right now, listeners. Not nipple feeding. Breastfeeding our baby. Because we have a baby, which is the weirdest thing. And this is another thing that's weird about it. I thought that at some point I would feel like a mother. I thought, I'd be like, oh, I'm pregnant. This means something to me. But no, I never was. I'm like, oh, I guess when the baby comes out, that's what I'll feel like that. No, I'm still just like, where'd this baby come from? Whose baby is this? I like the baby fine, but it's weird. I thought it'd feel different. Jacob can't find it. It's because he lied about Diane Warren.
Oh, she's
just a pet fancier that has a side gig writing theme songs. Maybe she's just a big Star Trek fan and did it pro bono.
Well, that's always possible in the world of
Star Trek. I also want to know who wrote "You Give Love a Bad Name," or they wouldn't credit the song doctor, or they would.
Well, they do. That I made up that as an example.
I know you did.
But
that's why I feel like you should look up the truth.
Celine Dion, Because You Love Me, Unbreak My Heart, Toni Braxton.
Oh God.
I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. Those kinds of songs.
Right.
Songs that are not unlike Faith of the Heart, the Enterprise theme.
Yeah, means something.
Yeah. So, which means I've heard that song way more than I expected to.
Because you thought you'd just fast forward through it every time, but sometimes I'm like, no, I need it. I need it right now. Yeah. I need to check in and see how I feel now compared to how I feel when I listen to it other times.
Yeah.
And I also, Enterprise, I love it.
It is. I only have one complaint about Enterprise, and I think it's a complaint a lot of people make, is that
it's a bit boring.
It's a bit boring, pretty much because we're going to do the Stuck in a Shuttlecraft episode. We're going to do the Prison Planet episode. We're going to do the Sex Planet episode. We're going to do the moral relativism episode. It's sort of like, and these are all things that make it good and it feels Star Trek-y and, familiar and want to watch it. At the same time, you're like, this is
because I feel like they could
tired.
I feel like they could do more interesting first contact-y stuff than they have been.
Yeah, because it's the period where it's all first contact. Every except for the Vulcans, they haven't met any, and I guess the Denobulans, Dr. Phlox's race.
Dr. Phlox.
Who is one of my favorite Star Trek characters of all time.
I wanted to name the baby Phlox. But then you were like, no, because it's a Star Trek character. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's sort of its Achilles heel, and then it's also sort of what we liked about it. Also, it's like, oh, this actually feels like Star Trek.
It's familiar. It's comfortable. It's like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes.
Yeah, it's like watching TNG reruns, but it's a little bit new. But then after a while, it got to be where it's like it's watching a shitty version of a TNG rerun.
I feel like it was just what we needed, though. In that time, like Enterprise will always have a special place in my heart, just because we watched it when we had a new baby. Like, when it was the new baby trenches. It's kind of been there with us. Yeah. From there to here. Yeah. And there's still so much of it to watch.
Yeah. There's like
two more.
Two and a bit seasons.
And they're big seasons.
Yeah, they're like the old 28 episode type seasons, not the 8 episode BBC kind of thing. And you also, with Enterprise, get to experience the absolute worst douchebag character in the entire Star Trek universe.
That's actually my only complaint about Enterprise is the weird, like, rapey misogyny.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
There is.
Which all really culminates in the character of Malcolm Reed.
Oh my god.
Who is like you never really think about the way in which Riker sort of pulls it off. And Malcolm Reed is like the real life, what those kind of guys are actually like, just sickening. You're just like, you get this bile-y sort of vomit feeling when he talks about a woman, or some sort of sexual kind of scenario.
The thing that I think is really off-putting is this idea of like wanting to do it with
aliens,
wanting to do it, period,
right. yeah,
and not wanting to do it with someone.
Yeah,
like the idea of like the doing the sex is the thing that's the most important, not like doing the sex with the person that you think it's going to be good with, like it's more like I got to find someone to do the sex with, not just like, hey, I found this person and I think we should do the sex. Like,
we got to be awesome.
Like those are two super different things. And I feel like the men's right activist, that MRA thing is more like wanting to do the sex.
And that is sort of maybe why
it's rape culture too.
Totally. And I think maybe the Vulcans didn't want humans to go out into space. The real reason was they didn't want humans to spread rape culture into the galaxy, because they're looking at this crew and going, these humans are all
super rapey.
They're a bit rapey, aren't they? But we can't just say that. We're going to talk about them about being warring and animalistic. But really what they're talking about is they're just like rapey.
Yeah, can't they be civilized and just do it every 7 years like the Vulcans?
Exactly. The thing about that whole storyline in Enterprise, which is kind of, it's like the humans are clearly the least warring civilization that the Vulcans have ever encountered in the universe.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because every single race that they run into is like some sort of completely psychotic race of aliens,
like the Andorians.
Yeah. Or any of them. There's like just criminals or...
This baby is stinky. You want to change this baby?
Okay.
So, listeners, I don't mean to freak you out about breastfeeding, but if you're going to do it, do some learning about it beforehand. And get support early on. It's not supposed to hurt, so if it's hurting, get someone to help you right away. Because I even feel like I got help early on, and it still was kind of a mess. It's getting better now. Doesn't really hurt too much, but I have this wound. I have a nipple wound. It seeps, a seeping nipple wound, which is actually more painful than the abscess itself, which is on the other boob. Was it poop?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else about Enterprise?
I don't know.
I wish there was more women on it.
Yeah, there's really just the two, and then
I also think it's interesting how the Andorians call the humans pink skins. And I'm like, yeah, maybe if there's a little bit more diversity in the crew, they wouldn't call them pink skins. Sorry about your luck, Ensign Merriweather.
Yeah, and Hoshi. Yeah, the first time the Andorians run into Boomer and Hoshi, they'll be like,
what are you?
Are you from a different planet than
Boomer?
Captain Archer?
His name's Boomer?
That's his nickname.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
But yeah, I remember him being nicknamed Boomer, but they was like...
Travis.
It's Travis, but they call him Travis or Merriweather.
Yeah.
They never call him by this nickname he's supposed to have. Yeah, because that's what they call people who on freight ships.
Oh, right.
The boomers. Yeah. But there was a BSG character named Boomer, so maybe that's why they...
There was?
Yeah.
This baby's making a lot of sounds.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Earlier you asked me to look up if... Galaxy Quest was before. Yeah. Galaxy Quest was 99, and Enterprise started in 2001.
Oh.
So they were hacking Galaxy Quest a bit.
Which is amazing. Enterprise that is like art imitating life, imitating art, imitating art, imitating art.
I don't know. Do we want to go as far as to say art, really, though?
I don't know.
It's entertainment.
Okay.
It's only entertainment. Archer, probably the worst captain.
Yeah, he's a bit of a whiner.
Yeah, he's the poutiest captain of all of them.
He's pouty.
That's his command style.
Well, and I also liked in the last episode we watched where he's all like, yeah, I had to, to be a captain, you have to know this. And then T'Pol's like, well, I guess you learned that. And I was like, really? Really? You guess he learned that? Because I feel like he's kind of not a very good captain.
Yeah.
And like when in that episode where Tucker, made the bad choice with the co-janitor.
Yeah.
And he tried to help her out.
Yeah.
And then was like, I did what you would do. And I was like, yeah, you did what you would do. What are you going to say to that, Archer? And Archer's like, you obviously haven't been paying attention. That's not what I would do. And I'm like, what? Because I'm pretty sure it is. You impose your weird morals on everybody. And
yeah. Which I guess is why Archer was supposed to be having such a tough time with it. Because you realized that was the example he'd set for Tucker.
Yeah, but they never let that be the case.
I think it was still probably the best Enterprise episode so far that we've seen.
It was good. Tucker's really grown on me as a character.
He's probably my favorite.
I just lumped him in with Malcolm so much in the beginning,
because they're partners in crime and they're wink wink nudge nudge, three boobed aliens, her kind of thing.
Yeah, the only exploring they want to do is like alien vagina.
Yeah, and they get really squicked out when they don't have vaginas.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's no Tom Paris, that's for sure.
And that Tom Paris is better or worse?
Worse.
Than Tucker?
Yeah.
But better than Malcolm?
Yeah, I guess he would be. Whereas...
no one's as bad as Malcolm.
No, and Ensign Kim is no Merryweather.
And that Merryweather's better than Ensign Kim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But T'Pol is no 7 to 9.
No. She's not.
No matter how much they want her to be.
No matter how big her boobs are.
Or how tight her only Vulcan in the universe to wear those clothes are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the only Vulcan who wears a catsuit for some reason.
All the other Vulcans wear those big robe things.
Yeah. Oh, there was the Emprig episode.
Yeah.
It's a nice little tie into the subject matter of this podcast.
Yep.
There was no nursing, though.
It was disappointing that he didn't take the baby to term.
Yeah.
And that there wasn't nursing.
No. There's no suckling of teats, of Trip's teats.
But that was pretty funny. I mean...
well, it was, the fanfic plot line come to life.
It's great.
Yeah. Art imitating art, imitating art. Yeah.
Art imitating fanfic? No, fanfic is art.
Yeah.
It's art.
It's art. But he got to escape. What he didn't get to experience was the absolute traumatizing horror of giving birth.
That's true.
Yeah, that was something I was not prepared for, which I feel like sounds really naive, because there's I think
nothing can really prepare you for it, though.
No, because it's not like, no matter how many scenes of labor you've seen in TV and movies, they don't capture it even remotely. Mm-hmm. The intensity and the animal ferocity of the fear and I don't know, just the intensity of it.
The intensity and the biological imperative. Like there's this sort of intense thing.
Yeah.
This doing.
Yeah. Before the troubles with the surrounding the breastfeeding, I was really like, why don't people talk about how horrible birth is? Like, as they do. Like, obviously, people do talk about how, it's like pain you've never experienced, or it's really crazy. But they don't. Nobody goes into the details of seeing that kind of pain and terror in your partner's face, and the weird guttural shrieking noises that humans aren't supposed to be able to make that are not like the screams that actors do on TV in those scenes. It is a different quality, almost a tangible quality to it.
Did you just have a shudder over there?
Yeah, I mean, I still have PTSD from what was otherwise a textbook perfect birthing experience.
It was perfect. And it's funny that you still feel so traumatized by it, because I just feel glorious about it now.
Because it was the easy part.
It was the easy part, but also, like, I'm just so pleased with how it went, and, like, the parts of it that were bad
were finite.
Yeah. What is it? But you're acting like you want that, but then you don't. You just want more milk to be coming out of there than there is.
Supposedly there's that hormone that helps women forget the rigors of childbirth so that they'll have more children in the future, which maybe you're also benefiting from, whereas I'm not. Right. I have crystal clear, seared into my retinas kind of experience, triggered randomly.
What triggers it?
No, it's not like back in Nam kind of thing. But I think if you, except when we were listening to the cat cam, because we had this baby monitor set up called a cat cam prenatally. We were like, well, let's
spy on the cats.
Let's spy on the cats. Yeah. So, and it in the free trial, it was recording everything in the house. Apparently, we didn't realize this at the time, but it also recorded the early stages of your labor. So you're off screen, but picking up the audio, and so we were listening back to that, and and it was like. That was sort of a back in Nam experience. It was like hearing the gunshots or firecrackers and then being like, oh my God, it's an air raid kind of thing. So, yeah.
For me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But like problems with breastfeeding, I feel like that is also something that isn't really talked about in our culture. Even though it is talked about in the same way that breastfeeding is talked about, but not talked about.
There's like a secret under.
Yeah, there's like there's like a wall, a sort of a facade put in place, and then you walk through the facade into the reality, and it's like, oh, this is what all those code words meant. This is actually one of the most traumatic human experiences that you're going to have. That does involve actually a violent death or something like that. Yeah.
That's just part of human experience.
Yeah. And this is why they call it a magical experience, because if they called it the most horrific thing you're ever going to do, society can't really function that way.
No, people would definitely not sign up for it in the same way.
Well, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about
Enterprise,
birthing, breastfeeding?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about childbirth. No, I don't know. It was great. It was the best thing. It was the best it could have possibly been, and it was still completely terrible.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I definitely felt that way at first, but I don't now.
Well, now that things are sort of coming together, everything sort of, there's just a sense of having come through and relief that is sort of taking the edge off everything.
It's true. Knowing that we don't have to do it again.
And that as well.
Yeah.
Nerd hurdles. Here's a further appeal for you. I need supporters for this website. This simplysyndicated.com thing, this podcast network you've been listening to. We don't have ads, you see, but it takes money to run this and keep me willing to do it. So I need you to go to simplysyndicated.com/everything and sign up to support us with just £6 a month, which is incredible. We appreciate it so much. It's awesome, you guys that already do it, and we, need every little bit we can get to help us out. So if you go there, simplysyndicated.com/everything, it's £6 a month to support us, and you get simply everything in return, which is our entire back catalogue of sort of 11 years worth of shows and exclusive content. Alternatively, we've got a Patreon, which is patreon.com/simplysyndicated. That's a $3 a month support donation, and I've been posting some exclusive content on there as well. So that's might be more up your alley. Or failing that, we actually just have a PayPal button where you can give us a little tip, throw us something in the jar, so to speak, And you'll find the link to that at the bottom of simplysyndicated.com.
Stop it. He's digging his claws into me. This is not his normal boob reaction.
No, maybe he's just not hungry.
No, he's very enthusiastic on there, but then he gets all upset.
Maybe he doesn't like that you're talking.
Maybe not. What are you doing?
Maybe he's not wanting to eat.
Maybe he has a burp.
We'll be able to sell this as burping the baby Foley. What was one? They got gills and stuff. I don't know what they were, but
They have gills?
I don't know. They're on that prison shuttle. That one. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're ugly and
They're ugly. And that's the
Yeah, I
other
don't know.
thing, too. Like, the aliens are always like, the meaner they are, the uglier they are.
yeah. Yeah, they should have they should run into at least one race where they're very smooth and symmetrical and attractive aliens.
Well, the people on Rise are attractive.
Yeah, they just have some spots.
Just some spots. You're stinky, but it's not your butt. Where are your stink coming from? Coming from.